Good evening, everyone. My name is Chelsea Ferranti, and tonight I will be presenting on firearms and gunshot wounds. So according to James, Norby, and Bell, firearms injuries are the most common suicidal and homicidal wounds seen throughout the United States. A gunshot wound is defined as a physical trauma caused by a bullet or projectile from a firearm. Damage may include bleeding, broken bones, organ damage, infection of the wound, or loss of the ability to move that part of the body. A bullet wound is caused by the creation of a temporary cavity as the bullet travels through a person, the collapse of that cavity, and then the shockwaves from the cavity's creation and subsequent collapse. When a bullet enters a person, it is traveling much faster than the velocity at which tissues tear. So instead, it pushes the tissue out of its way. This stretches the tissue beyond its breaking point, but does not cause the tissue to break. The tissue only breaks at a much slower speed than the bullet travels. So here I have a video of a bullet traveling through a block of gelatin, and that's to represent a bullet traveling through skin. So as you can see, the bullet creates an initial primary cavity as it goes through the skin, and then all of this back here is to represent the stretching of the skin past its breaking point. So before starting this research project, I believed that there was just one type of wound specifically created by each of the different types of bullets. I have since discovered that there are an infinite number of different types of gunshot wounds, and they all differ based on a multitude of factors. Some of the factors that I looked into were kinetic energy of the bullet, the type of bullet, the bullet size, the distance the target is from the shooter, the angle at which the bullet strikes the target, and the size and type of firearm. So how is a bullet's energy determined? A bullet's energy is determined based off kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy that an object has because of its motion. Muzzle energy is specifically a bullet's kinetic energy and is used as a rough indication of the destructive potential of a given firearm or cartridge. Kinetic energy of a bullet or projectile is the energy that is transferred from the bullet to the target when the target is hit. The destruction produced by a bullet is directly proportional to the kinetic energy loss of the bullet in the body of a person.
There's nothing better than being right on target, but what actually happens to the bullet when it reaches the point of impact? Terminal ballistics is the study of how a projectile behaves and the transfer of kinetic energy when it hits the target. This subject is particularly important for hunters. Ethical hunters desire a quick and humane kill, which is determined by the wound cavity. There are two types of cavities, primary and temporary. The primary cavity is the initial hole in the target made by the bullet. This hole is the same diameter as the bullet and results from penetration and expansion. When a bullet hits soft tissue, the tissue attempts to absorb the bullet's energy. This creates an impact crater that stretches until the bullet is able to penetrate the tissue. As the bullet continues to travel, the tissue is stretched beyond its elasticity, making it become cut and torn before it tries to return back to normal position. This forms the temporary cavity. Primary and temporary cavities are impacted by many factors, one of which is bullet design. Bullets designed with heavier jackets, such as full metal jackets, have little expansion but penetrate deeper, making them ideal for target practice and plinking. Soft point, where the lead core is exposed at the tip, are ideal for hunting large game due to their medium expansion and small fragmentation. Meanwhile, bullets with lighter jackets, such as hollow point bullets, don't penetrate as deeply but quickly expand. This limits overpenetration by creating a wider primary cavity and an increased temporary cavity, making them perfect for law enforcement, self-defense, and hunting small game. For Firearm Science, I'm Jessica. See you next time.
So she does an excellent job explaining kinetic energy and the transfer of it as it comes in contact with a human body. She also touches base on my next topic, which is type of bullet. So any guesses as to what type of projectile caused this? So if you guessed shotgun shells, then you are correct. So shotgun shells create multiple entrance wounds due to the multiple projectiles that are packed in a shell casing. So each one of these little pellets can create their own entrance wounds. However, a little disclaimer, the closer the shotgun is to the target, the less number of entrance wounds. So specifically, if you have a shotgun, a contact shot from a shotgun, you're only going to have one entrance wound, but you'll still have all of these little projectiles inside the body. She also touched base on the hollow point bullets. So a hollow point bullet is an expanding bullet. It was specifically designed to enlarge its diameter during the passage through tissue, and it is used for controlled penetration, making them less likely to exit the body. This allows the bullet to expel all of its kinetic energy inside the target's body, making them more powerful and less deadly than a non-expanding bullet. So hollow point bullets were specifically designed with kinetic energy in mind. So this is just an example of the damage that hollow points can cause. This is a fractured bone in the arm. So like we were saying, round nose is an example of the non-expanding bullet. So they do not expand on impact. They do not deform in the body. They do not cause as much damage as hollow nose. They are not commonly used in self-defense scenarios and are more commonly used at shooting range. So the reason that a round nose bullet is less damaging than a hollow nose bullet is because they can go through and through or in and out, meaning that as the bullet goes into a human, it can exit the human and it takes kinetic energy with it, which wastes kinetic energy. Another type of bullet that is very good at expending all of its kinetic energy inside a target is the RIP bullet. So an RIP bullet stands for radically invasive projectile. It uses machine coppered tip bullets to make multiple penetrations into a target, including the main body of the bullet. So this creates no less than 9 different wound channels. The bullet was designed to create massive wounding, leading to rapid blood loss and target incapacitation. It is referred to as the most lethal bullet ever made. And it looks like a hollow nose on steroids to me. So the next factor we will talk about is bullet size. So the extent of damage depends obviously on the organ that is affected, but even for relatively slow speed handgun bullets, the estimate generally is 3 times the diameter of the bullet. So in simple terms, the larger the bullet, the larger the wound channel. The next factor we'll talk about is distance the target is from the shooter. So the distance the target is from the shooter or from the gun does make a difference in the size and damage of the gunshot wound. Typically, as one would probably imagine, typically the closer you are, the more damage you're going to do. So there are different types of entrance wounds depending on the distance the target is from the shooter. So we have contact, near contact, intermediate, and distant. Contact wounds are created when the muzzle of the firearm is in contact with the target and when the trigger is pulled. So they are identified by this starlight or stellate pattern left behind due to the tearing of the skin from the expanding gases that are released with the fire of the gun. You're also going to see some charring of the skin, some burning of the skin due to the heat of that release of gas. So near contact shot is when the muzzle of a firearm is not in contact with the target but is held at a very short distance. Characteristics of near contact near contact gunshot wounds are very similar to those of contact wounds, with the exception of the shape of the wound. Near contact wounds appear more circular in nature, and they lack the appearance of the starlight pattern. The next distance is the intermediate gunshot wound. As distance from the shooter to the target increases, the effects of the gases diminishes, and only the unburned powder and bullet are capable of penetrating the skin. So this is the unburned powder and the bullet hole. And so this thus creating a smaller hole. So distant gunshot wounds are probably the farthest, and they appear circular in nature, and the hole is often not much bigger than the size of the bullet. These gunshot wounds also lack the smoke, the soot, and the stippling. So another factor to take into consideration when examining gunshot wounds is the angle at which the bullet strikes the target. In addition to the distance a shooter is from the target, the angle at which the bullet hits the target also affects the damage and size of the gunshot wound. So if you fire at someone from 90 degrees, you're going to have a more direct shot, which will ultimately cause more damage. Whereas if you fire the same exact bullet from the same distance, but hold the gun to the target at an angle less than 90, you're going to have a different outcome. So depending on the angle, you could potentially just graze the skin, kind of in this picture here, and you might not even penetrate the skin at all. So the last factor that I'll talk about are the size and type of firearms. I always believed that the larger the gun, the more damage caused, but I have since learned that this is not true at all. In fact, I believe that the type of bullet and the distance the shooter is from the target have the most impact on gunshot wounds and damage to the body. So in conclusion, there are so many factors that go into creating a gunshot wound that no two gunshot wounds are the same.